Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Monique and thank you for clicking on this video. I'm here today just to get myself back into a habit of talking to the camera because it's been a while and I'm kind of in this weird place where I'm just not motivated to do anything, and I know that it's easy for me to be able to say things and do things because life experience has taught me that, you know, not everything lasts forever. Not everything is, not every situation is permanent. And obviously everything that's going on these days, it's been kind of like a roller coaster of sorts, emotionally. I know for myself, it's definitely helped that I've had a job to go to and that I can, you know, get out of my house and whatnot. But at the same time, I kind of wish that I had time to just sit and have nothing to do. If you're new to my channel, or if you've watched any videos prior to this one, regarding school and whatnot, I'm still in school. I'm taking anthropology at the moment, and next week I'll be starting my Spanish 102 class, which is a 5-week class, and I was informed a couple of weeks ago that it's going to be online, but as like a structured format, so the professor is supposed to reach out and give us our meeting times. Originally it was supposed to be twice a week in the evenings, so on campus, so I'm assuming it's going to be via Zoom or something like that, where we will meet and have to converse, because I know for a fact this professor is all about practicing, speaking. He's not about writing things down. And I mean, obviously we do have written work to do, but I took Spanish 101 with him, and he was very adamant about class time being utilized for practicing speaking to each other in Espanol. So I'm looking forward to that, although I'm still, like I said, I'm in this weird place where I feel like I have to really push myself to do things, things that normally probably wouldn't take me as long. I usually take a while, or I'll start assignments really early because that's just my habit. I like to do that because it relieves the stress of having to, you know, be cramming everything into the last minute. Life is stressful enough on its own, and you don't need to create that kind of stress for yourself. Though I do find that when I'm under a time crunch, I do work a little bit better. So, but if I can organize and get everything pre-planned or outlined, or kind of do like a rough draft of papers and stuff like that, then gives me a better sense that at least I'm prepared for whatever I need to do. Everything else is kind of the same. My son is going to be starting his senior year in the fall. I just got an email about senior photos, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, because I remember going through all this with my daughter a few years ago, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already going to be his senior year. I mean, he's growing up, and this point in life is kind of strange, especially living in a time of social distancing and all that stuff. But you know, and our family is doing well. I mean, we're all healthy, and again, like I said, it's emotionally very stressful. I try to keep things as normal as possible in terms of routines and times we sit down for dinner, and that's pretty much the only time we all kind of get together. Sometimes my daughter's working, so it's usually sometimes just my husband, my son, and I eating dinner. Yeah, I just kind of wanted to share a little bit about what I'm thinking about. You know, also to remind myself the reason why I started this channel was to document, you know, my life as I going school, and it's crazy to think like I mean, I think I'm on track to graduate in December, which will be nuts because then I'll transfer to my 4-year next fall. And so if you're new, I'm a 40-year-old mom, wife, who was a stay-at-home mom for a long time. I chose to not go to college, and so this is just my journey back, because I really always wanted to get my degree, and I'm a sociology major, so I'm very interested in the study of people and the study of society, and I love psychology, and I'm taking anthropology this semester, which is amazing so far, and I'm just trying to remind myself that this is something I want to do. It's not something I have to do. At the same time, it's like the time is going to pass anyway, so why not just make the most of it, learn. I'm a big proponent for just being a student of life and just learning something every day for yourself or for the purpose of understanding others, or the more you know, the more you realize you don't know. But it's also a good thing because it gives you insight into the fact that we're all very connected. We're all in certain situations that are the same regardless of our own cultures and whatnot. We all have the same feelings. We all go through certain situations. I mean, they may be completely different in terms of like where you live and your own societal makeup and cultural background and life experience and the way you're raised and what type of environment you live in. But when you boil it down, I mean, there's so many things we all have in common. And right now, of course, we're all dealing with this pandemic, and there's so much stuff going on in the world that I feel like it's good to learn, good to grow, and good to contemplate these things. And I think we're all dealing with it in our own ways. Hopefully people are taking the time to take care of themselves, whether it's getting outside and walking or moving your body or meditation or just connecting with people online and taking advantage of resources that have been made available because of this. I mean, it's incredible, the content that has been created, the way that artists have been expressing themselves, and it's just been really, really cool to see that. So, but another reason why I wanted to create this video is because I've been watching a lot of the mid-year book freakout tags, and I think that that's something really fun, so I kind of wanted to do that. Well, I'm going to do my own version of it because while I haven't written any books. Well, I've read a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks over the last 6 months. I'm not necessarily sure I can answer every single question, but I still wanted to participate and do that because I kind of want to share where I'm at in my reading life, and hopefully you'll find it of interest, so just keep watching. All right, I can't find like a really good place to do this, but because I can't lay on my stomach for too much longer, because like at the beginning of the video, anyway, I'll put the books up here on the side, so then that way you can kind of see the covers and whatnot. Some of these books I listened to, and some I read physically, but I didn't gather all the books here, so I just think it'll be easier just to put the pictures of the books. And I will make sure that I link everything down below so that you can read any synopsis that or of the books that sound interesting to you. So first question is the best book I've read so far this year, and I'm gonna say it came down to 3 books, and one was The Good Daughter, And if I forget names of authors, I apologize. But KARIN Slaughter is the author. It was my first book of hers that I've ever read, and I own I own Pretty Girls, and I was too scared to read that book, so I got The Good Daughter on audio, and I could not stop listening to it. It was so good, and it really captivated me and was great. So the second book that I want to mention is Catch and Kill by Ronan Farrow, which was also another book that just I really wanted to read it, and I was happy that I did read it because I initially started listening to his podcast that was kind of like a complement to the book. So it was like you could listen to the podcast and read the book and still take away different things from it, so which is good. And then the third book is another nonfiction book called Inside the Hot Zone, and that was a book written by a man who worked at Fort Detrick in the Department of he worked with bioterrorism. So I'm not doing a very good job of explaining this, but it read like a thriller, but it was just based on his experience working and trying to combat the threat of like when the Ebola crisis happened, and anthrax and all this stuff that I was aware of, but at the same time I didn't really understand how incredibly bad it could have been if it wasn't brought under control. And the fact that people can actually use like organisms and diseases like smallpox as a weapon is it's terrifying. So I was initially a little bit scared to read it because when I first got it, it was when COVID had started, and I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to read about this stuff, but it ended up being a really good read, so I'm happy I read it. The second question is the best sequel that I've read this year, and I want to say there's two books, and the first one is High Five by Joe Ide, and it's part of the IQ series. So this is book 4, and basically it takes you through Isaiah's experience with being brought in on a case or like a mystery type thing with a person who has mental illness. And if you have read the series and there's a character who comes back who went away for a while, and you kind of just get to catch up with Isaiah. And I really enjoy this series because it's just so fast-paced, but at the same time it's very thoughtful, it's well written, the characters are so engaging and rich, and I really have connected with this series, and I'm always thrilled to read the next installment, because I started reading, I read the first 2 like back to back, and then I had to wait for the third one, which was great too. So I was really excited to read this one. The audiobook for the 4th book has a different narrator than the first 3 audiobooks. So at first it was kind of like, wait, this voice sounds different. And so I looked at it, I was like, oh, it's a new narrator, which was fine. The guy did a great job. I still enjoyed the story. It didn't take anything away from it. And again, the characters were really good. But yeah, it's part of a series. I do recommend that you start from book 1, but I'm taking this as a sequel, meaning, a continuation of a story. So, because I didn't really read any book 2s of anything this year so far. So, and then the second book is Fair Warning by Michael Connelly, which takes place in I guess it's in the Bosch universe. However, it's a character that hasn't been written in a while. So Fair Warning is actually a real website, and they kind of do like consumer protection type stuff. So they really do try to make sure that the information they're giving out is factual, obviously, but it's also a nonprofit organization that seeks to protect consumers from fraud, from scams, from any kind of thing that's gonna be, you know, harmful. So the main character in this story is oh shoot, I forgot his name. I'll write it here on the screen, the name of the character, and I cannot think of it right now, but he's had a few other books where he's been the main character, but Harry Bosch is not brought up in this story, but he's written. But I bring that up because, fair warning, because the character first appeared in a Harry Bosch novel, but he has had his own like storyline going on through, I believe, 3 other books. And he's a journalist. He's older now. He's definitely not unaware of how things work. He's very keen on the internet and all that stuff. So it's kind of cool. I mean, like I said, he's a character that exists in a universe of another character who's been introduced, but you could read this on its own and not feel like you're lost, because there are some key points that are brought up, and and Michael Connelly always does a good job of reminding you of certain aspects of the character's life, so that if you haven't read anything previously, then you're not gonna feel like you don't know what's going on. So a new release I haven't read, but I do want to read, is a book called Followers by Megan Angelo, I believe. I have all this is written down. And there's another book that I want to read. It's called Our Stop. And those are just books that I put on my TBR months ago when I found out they were going to be released this year. So I haven't read them yet, but I definitely hope to soon. Oh, a couple other books that I want to read that I'm anticipating but I haven't read is The Only Child. I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but Me I Seo, sorry, which is translated by Jung Yi Won. And I can't think of what it's about, but I know I wrote it down here and it's on my TBR, and I think it's kind of I think it's more of like a thriller, or maybe it's a suspense or something. I'm not sure. Anyway, I'll leave a link for it down below. And then the other one is The Vanishing by Britt Bennett. And she wrote The Mothers, which I read a few years ago, reading it, and I was really excited to read it, and I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, it didn't really blow me away, but I still remember it, and it still kind of sat with me. So I feel like in that way it was very effective. The characters, and just, I really enjoyed the story. I just think that the book was hyped to such a degree that I kind of had higher expectations for it. So when it didn't like blow me away, I was just kind of disappointed, but at the same time, I'm not disappointed that I read it. And I am looking forward to reading this newest book from her. So most anticipated release for the second half of the year is a book called His and Hers by Alice Feeney, and it just sounds so incredibly like, it sounds like it's going to be a really good book, and I cannot wait to read it. So I believe that it comes out in July, at the end of July, so I'm definitely looking forward to that. Also, there's another book called Home Before Dark that's releasing actually this week, June 30th, and The Law of Innocence, which I believe is the next installment of the Harry Bosch series. So that's by Michael Connelly. And but I think it's with the Lincoln lawyer. Oh my gosh, why can I not remember characters' names today? But anyway, so The Law of Innocence, it's coming out in November. Another Michael Connelly book. So definitely looking forward to that one. Biggest disappointment this year, I think, was a book that I had on my shelf for a long time, and when I heard the synopsis of it, it was really, I mean, it got my attention. It was kind of like a haunted house story about, you know, this family who lives in this house, and there's something going on in the upstairs room, and that's the title of the book too. So it's the upstairs room, and it kind of, I kept reading it because I was just like, what's going on and where are all these noises coming from? And slowly, like, things start happening to the people who live there. There's a lodger who lives in the basement to kind of offset the cost of the mortgage, because the family who bought the house, you know, needed a little bit more help. And it was a fixer-upper, so it was kind of the stress of having to deal with that. And just the things that happen to the family and the lodger as the months go by that they're living there. I mean, and then there's noises, and the mother finds out about like the previous family that lived there and like what happened with them. And then the lodger kind of has this like weird sense of things going on. And then there's this whole side storyline where she meets this guy, and, you know, it's all very strange. And, you know, with the dad and the daughters, and just there's something with the house, but I don't want to give it away. But I mean, I was disappointed in the fact that, like, you never really, there were things that weren't really explained, but yeah, it just wasn't as creepy or spooky or scary as I thought it was gonna be. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is. The biggest surprise this year that I read was Chanel Miller's memoir, Know My Name. That book, I think, it was the biggest surprise to me, in the fact that it's like when you expect something to be good, you know, because something is hyped, or, you know, I mean, obviously she had a reason to write this write this memoir, because what happened to her was so incredibly sad. And the fact that, you know, she lived in anonymity for so long, and that she wrote this book, it was kind of like, it was so inspiring, it was so heartfelt, it was so just engaging, and she is so talented as a writer. It's just, I was amazed. I mean, I cried, I laughed sometimes. I mean, I was happy with her when she was, you know, recounting stories of herself, just doing things that she was good at, even having this kind of you know, just like hope in the fact that, you know, she was able to survive something so horrific. And the fact that, like, things went on online and that were said about her. And, you know, if you're not familiar with her story, I definitely suggest that you look that up. Incredible. Biggest surprise, but biggest, like, just, I'm so happy that I read it. And if you get the audiobook, I highly recommend it, because she reads it, and it made it even better. Next few questions I don't have answers for, so it's like favorite new author or favorite new to you author. So I guess I would just say KARIN Slaughter, because I just read her book, one of her books, for the first time, and I've heard many good things about her. I guess I'll just go with that. And the next question is newest fictional crush. I didn't have one. My newest favorite character, I enjoyed a lot of the stories that I read this year. Maybe I need to work on that. Like, I mean, I remember characters and I remember stories. If I think of it, I will put it down in the description. I went through this tag and I kind of just wanted to just, you know, quickly go through it because it's always like the first answer you give is typically like the most honest and the most probably true to the answer that you want to give, unless, I mean, I could always go back and look and try to pick something just to pick it, but I don't want to do that. You know, I just kind of want to keep this a little bit more I want to keep it a little bit more authentic. So I didn't really have one. So book that made me cry, Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And a book that made me happy. Let's see. And I want to say, and I'm trying to even think if I even read it this year. How embarrassing. Like the time is so strange these days that I did go back in my Goodreads account and I was looking for books and I was like, oh, I remember this book, and then I see that I read it last year and I'm like, I feel like I just read that. So I'm hesitant to answer that because there's a lot of books that made me happy, but not necessarily because they were happy books, if that makes sense. I was really excited to read High Five. That made me very happy to finally read that because I love IQ. All right, the next question is the most beautiful book you've bought. And I think the Rattled Bones cover is just beautiful. I mean, it's simplistic, but it's very atmospheric and just kind of spooky, but it's just a beautiful cover. And I think I'm really happy I bought it. I'm probably gonna read that soon. Yeah, I think that's probably the most beautiful book that I've bought this year. Books to read before the end of the year. Obviously, all of the books that I've bought, I wrote down The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa because I've been wanting to read that for so long. And another book that I want to read this year, and this is thanks to another booktuber, and I can't think of her name, but she's new to me and I just started watching a bunch of her videos lately. But she highly recommends the book Misery and she loved it. So I really want to read that. I mean, I've read a few Stephen King novels, but not a lot. I read The Institute and I read The Outsider, both of which I enjoyed very much, but I read those last year. But yeah, I want to read Misery. I hear it's very good. So those are two books that I want to read before the end of the year. Some more nonfiction books that I plan to read. I believe it's called Me and the White Supremacy or something like that. That sounds very interesting. I want to read a book called Sapiens, which is another book that I've had on my radar for a while, which I kind of feel like kind of goes along with my anthropology mindset right now that I'm taking with my class, and just studying humans and learning about like the past and how people have developed or something like that. I think that's what it's about, but I'm not quite sure. Obviously there's a lot of books that I really want to read, but so that's it. I hope that you enjoyed watching this. Let me know what books that you have read this year that you've enjoyed. What are you anticipating reading this year? What were your favorite books? What were your least favorite books? Or maybe make your own video and share. And I'll leave the tag questions down below along with the link to the original creator of this tag. And many thanks to you for watching, and I hope that you are having a great day, and take care of yourselves. I'll see you again soon. Bye.